All righty. What is going on, everybody? This is Brian Parker with Head to Head. And listen, our weekly show Head to Head with Brian Parker is starting up in just a few minutes. So I always like to try, if possible, to come on just a little bit early. And thank everybody for tuning in. We air this show every single week on LinkedIn, Facebook, and also on YouTube. And then we re-air the show on our main platform, which is our Roku channel, on Fridays at 11 o'clock. And then it'll also appear on our on-demand category. So if you've missed any episodes, there are about 47 other episodes that will be coming up before this one that are already on our Roku channel. If you haven't added InPower TV to your Roku channel, it is so easy. All you have to do is go to search in Roku and put in the word InPower, the letter N, word power, all one word, and add the channel. That way, not only will you be able to see this and previous episodes of Head to Head, but there's also Head to Head Sports. There are also other podcasts, talk shows, short films, comedy sketches, music videos, all types of things. So we've been going now for 14 months almost, and we've gotten a lot more content, and we're looking for more content. Also, if you are a provider of any kind of good or service and you would like to air commercials on our feeds, please send us an email to theparkermedia@gmail.com and let us know how we can help you out with that. If you just want to do any kind of commercial, if you're a content provider and you have content that you would like to contribute, please feel free to add that as well. Would love to be able to share that with everyone else. And if you didn't know, Roku is a channel that is seen all over the world. A lot of people have decided that either the cost of cable or just the quality of cable isn't something that they want to be able to do. So they stream select programs. Roku has a variety of free programs, and it also can hook you up to things like Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, and things of that nature too. So you don't miss out on your favorite shows, so to speak. You just don't have 400 channels on cable that you may only watch a select few with, and you don't pay that exorbitant cable bill every single month. So it's something to look at, but it reaches over 75 million users all over the world. So that is pretty cool when we're talking about what Roku does. And as our channel grows, we'll expand to other sources such as Amazon Prime, Google TV, Apple TV, and things of that nature as well. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. Well, we got about 3 minutes before we start our 5-minute countdown. So in total, you got about 8 minutes to get yourself ready, get your kids away from the program. I don't know what kind of language some of my panelists like to use. No, I'm just kidding. I see you. But we're going to have some conversation today. Couple things I wanted to talk about. Our main conversation is going to revolve around names and monikers, especially sports teams where society has always just embraced tradition. And sometimes we tend to do things and continue things because it's just the way that they've always been done. But society grows and changes. And sometimes with those growths and changes, things that were acceptable 20, 30, 40 years ago may not be acceptable now. In the old days, guys used to catcall women. You don't want to do that anymore. Sister might walk up to you and give you a two-piece. So, or, just certain names that we've called people. I work in the hospitality industry, and, we used to call housekeepers maids. Now, a lot of people don't really use that term anymore. Just other things. Some people call administrative assistants secretaries, and those things aren't really acceptable in the field anymore. So why is it that names that can be deemed racist are hard to break away from? I have people that I know that are Washington football team fans, were Washington football team fans when they were using the racist moniker Redskins. And once they got rid of that, I'm literally watching these grown people burn their team gear in effigy on Facebook as a protest to getting rid of the name. The team didn't change. They still suck. So none of that really changed, whether they changed their name or not. It didn't change whether they were going to have a winning record or not. But it just really has this influence on people that seemingly makes no sense. It's, are we, when we do that, are we saying that it's more important to keep that tradition alive? Or should we be more politically correct? Should we be more sensitive to things that may be offensive to other people? So we're going to get that started in just a second. So we're going to start our 5-minute countdown. So get you some popcorn. If you'd like to join the show, make sure that you DM us for the link. If you want to just join our live chat, be able to do that and you can participate in the conversation. We're going to have a good panel tonight. I see some of them starting to come in. So with that said, we will start our 5-minute countdown and be back on the other side. Bam!
This a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And this a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And this a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. This a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And this a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And this a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the big biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I've been comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I've been comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. Ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I've been comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I've been comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. It's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I've been comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Head to Head with Brian Parker. I am he. And we are here for another week. Oh, my goodness. I'm seeing some Giants love. Seeing Jets love. Congratulations, Jets. You beat the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, shut up.
I'll be able to leave. But you won a game. And you got a Jets mug. Come on. This is great. Let's just talk about the Jets. No, I'm just kidding. Let's not. Welcome, everybody, to Head to Head. Like I said, I am Brian Parker here along with our panel. We have a good show for you guys this week. If you're joining in, you may be in on LinkedIn, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and then tomorrow we'll air the show again on our Roku channel. If you don't have InPower TV on your Roku channel, what the hell is wrong with you? Go right now, add it as a channel. That way you can keep up with the other 47 episodes of Head to Head. Really. And Head to Head Sports, all the podcast talk shows, short films, feature films, music videos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are 14 months into this thing, and we are happy that you are along for the ride. If you are a content creator and you would like to join in, feel free. Oh, let me add this dude here. If you're a content creator and you would like to put some content onto the channel, please reach out to us at theparkermedia@gmail.com. If you would like to add a commercial for a product, good, or event that you are hosting, please reach out to us at that same email address as well. That information will also show up again at the end of the show. Speaking of commercials, we'll take just this 1 minute, play this commercial for our friends at Plumbers, Electricians, and Beyond, and be back on the other side. All righty, and just like that, our friends at Plumbers, Electricians, and Beyond is a family-owned business that does plumbing, electrical, and some handiwork that is growing in the DMV. If you don't know what that is, that's DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and they are looking for skilled technicians. So please reach out to them if you or someone you know would be interested in joining their team. All righty. How about that? I think I paid all the bills. So let's welcome our panel today. We have Mr. CJ. How about him, Jones?
How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Good, good, good. The ever-loving, humble Cowboys fan. Let's move over to Mr. Michael Berry. How you doing, sir?
Doing pretty good. Looking forward to Sunday.
Yeah. There's some Cowboys coming around. Are they coming up to you?
We're going to them, I do believe.
Oh, you're going to Jerry World. So
Should be a fun game.
Yeah, it will be fun. Are you got a chance? You're gonna win? You what? You
know. We are on a winning streak right now. One game lost, so anything's possible.
It's all how you look at it. That is right. You have won lately, so you're not losing. That's true.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, let's say hello to Miss Marvis Berry. Who's on a winning streak as well.
He's nice. Well, I'm leaving now. Forget about it. Be nice to my friend. I am leaving.
Just when the game is
what are you leaving for? Your team is
nice
winning.
Friend.
Your team is winning. They got a good chance to win again this week, you know. So hey.
You need to be nice to my friend.
I'm being nice.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
You need to tell CJ I am very vindictive. I will find where you live. Exactly.
Yeah,
be nice to my best friend.
Yeah, she's a Jets fan. And listen, you can say
you a Jets fan. Oh, my bad.
You can say a lot about a Jets fan, but they are ride or die. You know, a lot of dying. A lot.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason why we're fans, probably.
They will ride, they will show up regardless, win, lose, or draw.
That's right.
So yeah, they're
well, hell, I didn't know today was Jersey Day. That's it.
Oh Lord.
And we will throw a knife if needed.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know Represent Your Team Day was okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, you know, I'm not representing my Panthers today, even though I think they're gonna be just okay. They're gonna be fine. They're making some moves. Hello, Miss Lori Parker. How are you?
Hello. How are you? Good to see everyone again. We didn't get the Jersey update, but that's okay. We're in blue and gray.
That's not Panthers colors, but I don't know what team you just sat there and represented, but we're gonna have to talk after the show.
Blue and gray.
This might be your last show. There's blue and black. We're blue and black. Yes. Golly. You got the jerk. Never mind. And I love you. I love you. Yes, Lord. All right. Well, speaking of NFL teams. Oh, have mercy. Speaking of NFL teams, one of the subjects that I put on to talk about today, was just something, you know, I keep trying to figure out what's wrong with people. And in the pre-show, I talked about the fact that I have, when I say friend, I mean loosely friend. That's somebody that I know, but, you know, we ain't friends, but we cool on Facebook. And I met him a couple times, but, you know, I just shake my head at the society a lot of times because of the things that people seem to hold so close to them and are so unwilling to separate themselves from. And it's almost like it's a very traumatic experience. And I know that a lot of people's stories when it comes to their favorite football team or basketball team sometimes has a lot to do with how they became a fan of that team, whether it was kind of inherited, it was passed down. You know, my mom, my dad used to take me to these games, and that's how I became a fan. Or, you know, one of those players I got to meet in person, and ever since I've been a fan. You hear all those different stories, and there's a a lot of times emotional connection to a team. That's why they call fans, because it's short for fanatics. So I get all of that. But a team's name, a team's mascot, many times have been connected to things that when they were established may have been acceptable during that time. And then over time, as we evolve as a society, certain things that we call things do not seem to jive anymore. And I gave the example loosely of, we don't really call secretaries anymore. Now they're administrative assistants. We don't call stewardess that anymore. We call them flight attendants. There's just different names that we use now. We don't, I work in the hospitality field, and every time somebody would say maid and it was after 1980, I'm just looking at them like, where the hell have you been? It's just housekeeper. Some people still say maids, and it still kind of throws me when they say it. But, when we look at the team names, this friend of mine on Facebook, once the Washington football team dropped the name Redskin, this guy, literally had been a Washington football team fan for over 30 years, as long as he could remember. He had just had a son a couple of years ago, and his whole thing was to do like what his dad did with him and pass that down to his son and get his son to be a Redskin fan. He's gonna pass that legacy on to him and his son, and just supposed to keep on going through. So once they made the announcement that they were dropping that name, this dude literally took all of his gear, his memorabilia, went on Facebook Live and burned it in front of everybody. Just disavowed himself from the only team that he has ever truly loved. Oh, I'm sorry. I see we have another guest. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave you out. You're on my second line. I didn't see you there, Mr. Brad Compton. How you doing, sir?
What up, B?
I'm doing amazing, man. How y'all doing?
And here go another one.
I'm just sitting here waiting patiently. It was sounding good.
Yeah, but I'm waiting patiently too, there, bro. Okay.
Oh, God dang it! Here we go.
He's not wearing Rams jersey.
Marvin's got her swagger on.
What are we doing today? What are we doing today? Because none of us on the
I should have told you to head and represent them NFC champion Rams.
I'm just saying.
Them Rams, boy, them Rams are something else, bro.
I know y'all talking about serious topics and everything, but it was exciting to watch Red Zone. They had the Giants on one screen and the Jets on the other screen. Both of them were coming down to the last minute. I was geeked. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I said, if I root for one of them, they're gonna lose. So let me just shut up, Well,
I found myself
appreciated.
I found myself rooting for the NFC East a lot this past weekend because for them to take care of the NFC South teams that they were playing. One was Atlanta and the other one was New Orleans. That keeps them down in the standings in the NFC South, so that my Carolina Panthers stay tied with Tampa Bay for first place. So I ended up being an NFC East fan this past weekend. So Thank you, Giants. Thank you, Danny Dine.
Pick a team. Right. Pick a team. Pick a team.
I did pick a team. Those teams helped my team. That is me picking a team. Because if we were going to lose, the only thing that would help that is if the teams under us lost as well. And they did.
Oh, God.
So look, that's how it goes.
Already in playoff mode. See, that's playoff mode.
Of course.
That's
if you ain't in playoff mode in game
you already 10 games down the road, bro. We just got started.
Well, see, that's why Dallas Cowboy fans don't never win, because y'all play checkers when everybody playing chess. You gotta think 10 moves down.
All right.
Oh boy.
You play week to week. We playing for the chip. Y'all think y'all win the chip in September and October. The chip is played in February. Y'all tell him when the chip is.
Ooh.
I know y'all normally on the couch.
Y'all go ahead and educate me.
Y'all normally on the couch by February. I understand that. That's when the chip is played. And it's going to be in California this year. It's going to be a SoFi, right?
It's going to be a SoFi. That's right.
I think, you know what? I think there's a good chance that this is going to be the second year in a row.
No, don't even say it, Brian. Don't even say it. Don't even put it out there. Leave it alone. You're going to jinx us.
I'm not trying to jinx you. I'm telling you the truth. I tell you the truth. I called Tampa at the beginning of the year, so I'm going against myself. But after what I've seen, nah, y'all had to get a bunch of injuries for that not to happen. But anywho's, as I was saying in my lead up, there's a lot of teams that have evolved, and this friend of mine decided to burn all of his stuff in protest. And I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, man, is it that serious? Maybe I don't understand, because I have a very young organization that I'm with Carolina. They've only been around for maybe 30 years. So I know some of these other organizations like the Steelers and Washington and the Cowboys, they've been around for quite some time. So maybe I just didn't understand his rationale for burning all of his stuff and doing it on Facebook Live and protest like that. Because I was like, hey, man, they're still in D.C. They still suck. They ain't changing anything. The same players. What the hell? So, he just told me about traditions and things like that. And I was like, yeah, but does it matter that, some people thought that maybe that name was kind of racist? And he just seemed like, well, that's not that big of a deal. And I just don't understand that.
Because he's not an indigenous individual. But okay, anyway. So my my question to you is, okay, he did this big production. Mm-hmm. Who did he hurt? He did this protest. That was his stuff. That was his money. So and
if it was authentic stuff, it ain't cheap. Now I don't know if he bought that little backyard stuff, but yeah.
But my thing is, like, what did he feel like he achieved? Like, did you ask him that?
No, because it just seemed like, when somebody is giving you an emotional answer, it's not based off of logic and stuff. He wasn't in a logical place. He was all over the place because it was more emotional. His dad brought him to those games as a kid. He lives in Charlotte. So one of the biggest things that, back in the day, there was no football team in North Carolina. So the only way that he would ever get to see his favorite team is if they drove to Laurel, Maryland, or they went to maybe Atlanta, where the Falcons played, and be able to see his team. So to him, it was almost like he felt like it was a betrayal from the team to do that to him. Yeah. But I see this now more and more, where people are not just protesting the Washington football team. They are protesting the Cleveland Guardians, who were formerly the Cleveland Indians. And there are other high schools and other organizations that are dropping a lot of Native American names and monikers, and other ones being pressured to. And of course, this is now around the time when everybody's talking about woke culture. And, all they did is took the politically correct angle and then call it being woke now, to almost be something derogatory. But is it really woke to be sensitive to things that may have seemed okay in the past, but we've evolved as a society? Shouldn't some of the things that we expect from organizations and sporting teams to evolve as well?
Of course, I do. I would expect that.
Well, I think it really depends. Some of the names out there don't offend me. Like most Black people, I can trace back to some Native American heritage. Names like the Atlanta Braves, the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm okay with. Not derogatory or whatever. A name like the Washington Redskins, that's like calling a team the New York Knicks. So
it is.
That in itself,
it is. I can see that. I can see that. I mean, just by the term red skin.
Right. On the other hand, if you're going to change a name, you need to change the name. Washington football team is
not a name. No, not a little generic. It's not a name.
Well, in what they did was they thought it more important to drop the name and then try to methodically come up with a replacement name. Now they're in their second year of it.
Thank you. How long does it take? Do you got nobody on your marketing team? Well, come on.
They might keep it. They might keep it.
Yeah, they're testing names and stuff like that to see, because it's like a marriage. You only want to do it one time. So they've already had one divorce. So they're trying to make sure that the next name that they step into is one that's going to be, lasting for this team. I did get a comment from one of our viewers. He said the problem is you change the name once, and then they're going to change it again for what? Talking about
for
Washington.
Whatever's floating through the air. Whatever's floating through the air.
Well, and to answer your question, Anthony, who asked the question is it's not, I hear what you're saying, but that's where people start this whole thing about, well, if you do it once, you'll do it again, and where does it end? That's not really the argument. And people like to make that argument a lot about a lot of different topics. Well, whether it's mass mandates or this and that and the other. Well, if you start mandating this, then they're going to sit there and mandate that, and then they're going to do that. Well, that's what they said about seatbelts, and helmets when you ride motorcycles and things like that. We evolve as a society. It's not a matter of, well, if you give in to that, then you're going to start giving in, and you're going to keep bending over and bending over. That's just not the way to really look at it. The name has some racist ties to it. Why would you want to be associated with an organization that would carry a racist moniker with it? It's not about, okay, if you now name them something else, then 10 years down the road, somebody else is going to be offended by it. It could happen. So you want to buy Washington gear and then buy new gear once the name change. So is money more important than disrespecting an entire group of people? So this is the question I just got asked. You want to buy Washington gear and then buy new gear. So the rationale to keep a racist moniker is the cost. So who is it going to cost more, the fans or the organization? Because they have to change, they have to do the marketing and things like that. A lot of things change over time like that, and a lot of times it's tied to money. If we are compromising our morals and our place in this world based on how much things cost, then the show is kind of over because we're already lost. It doesn't make any. If money is your driving factor, I mean, what's the real reason? It's tradition. To me, it seems
let me
like
play devil's advocate a little bit here. So I understand about being woke and it being derogatory towards indigenous people, but was it racist 20 years ago? Were these same people speaking out 20 years ago, 30 years ago?
A lot of them,
they were.
Yes, they were.
Yes, they were.
And they were getting drowned
out.
And
were they football fans?
They were.
Or are they just trying to inject themselves into a realm that when you're a fan, you're a fan. So I don't know about burning my stuff. I mean, my team not doing well, but I ain't burning none of my jerseys. They cost me and my husband way too much money.
I know
that's my point. That's my point.
Right.
But are these people that are injecting themselves into the NFL and Major League Baseball, are they true fans? Are they really, really fans and get what we feel when we're watching our team no matter what they're doing?
No, actually,
probably not.
The original complaint, Brian, actually came from the indigenous people themselves. Because Correct. I don't know if you guys recall this or not, but I remember someone was recording the audio of the warrior cry whenever
when they was doing the whatchamacallit.
They would do like, oh. I didn't see nothing wrong with it, but it was only until the indigenous people themselves actually stood up for themselves. And then that's when your more politically correct people came in and was like, well, okay. But then somehow they was able to shut them down or make them quiet or whatever. But now we're back on this train again. And so the things that we were kind of like overshadowing, now it's coming to the light again. AKA R. Kelly, AKA Matt Gaetz, AKA everything else that they kind of covered up. Now we're going back and being like, okay, let's go back and look at that again. So
let me ask you a quick question then. So
okay.
Everybody here thinks that blackface is a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So what would be the difference between a white person putting on war paint and feathers in their damn head and doing the tomahawk chants at the Washington football team.
There is no difference. There's no, because to them that is their black flag. That is their black face, and that's why they feel offended.
I mean, would you have to be a fan to be offended by that, or
No, I'm offended.
That kind of make it feel a little creepy, like why? When it's one thing that, like you said, the Braves and the Chiefs, I totally get that, but the whole that's a stigmatism of how Native Americans are. We think, all right, Chief, you little man, me big river, you little river. That's all. Everything I just did is some kind of stereotype, right?
Right.
So you go to the games, and you got tomahawks. You're not celebrating Native Americans when you do that.
Right. You're not uplifting them. You're not.
Are you?
No,
but
you're not there to celebrate
character.
Native Americans. You're there to celebrate your team. How is putting on red and white face different than the cheeseheads in whatever?
Right.
When
in Green Bay.
Right.
Right, in Green Bay, when they put whole leg gear on.
Or when the little Irish man runs out in the middle of Notre Dame game.
Yeah,
that gets a major applause. Nobody attacks it. I love when that Florida State horse. We were sitting down watching it at Michael's house a couple of weeks ago, and that horse ran out at halftime or the beginning of the game, and he threw that arrow into the ground. Yo, I love that. I love when they do that. I'm just saying.
It depends on the culture. They're comfortable with that.
But it's also not blackface. It's not denigrating. It's not making fun of. If you look at it from a different perspective, we're speaking to the great warriors of the Seminole tribe. I don't know. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just saying, we're not denigrating Indian people. We're speaking to your fierce, the fierceness of your warriors.
Warrior spirit.
Yeah, the warrior spirit. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Or the fighting Irish, whatever. I mean.
But there has to be, or they should have, or at least those individuals that either brought this up should be working with the team in tandem to come up with something to sit here, either to pay homage or however it is. But it doesn't necessarily be on a fan. If I'm going to a football game, I'm going there because I want to be with my team. Now, I'm not a cheesehead, but I've had the finger and I've been on there. But it's just I think what it is they need to have a marketing plan or something to where they're working with the team, whether the team either makes a contribution to the indigenous people, like something that they need to be sitting here to do. But in changing the name, okay, I get it. It is maybe racist, and that's what you're sitting here for towards indigenous people. But what is the team doing to, once they've now taken away this name, now it's just Washington, whatever it's going to be in its fruition.
Right, but now you're nothing. And I agree with you, Lori. Why didn't you work with the same group that brought up the problem? Okay, but we didn't mean it that way. We saw you as fierce warriors, and we want to keep on that same mainframe. Help us decide on a name that does not denigrate you as a people.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what they did, but when they just kind of chopped off the name, and I get it, but what did they do to the community? What has Washington done to either work with either the indigenous folks or the indigenous peoples that have been either connected either within that land, within Maryland or something?
Well, Lori, I agree with you from that point. That's the moving forward part, right? But that still isn't going to resolve the issue with people that didn't want it to be changed at all. So it doesn't matter if the next day you stepped out and you called them the Washington Angels or you called them, the Washington whatevers. They're no longer the Washington Redskins.
Well, then there's that small minority of individuals that may have scored.
They are not small.
It ain't small.
They are not small. Heck no.
No, sir.
They are not small.
It ain't small at all. That's the problem.
But
I
then
know three Washington fans right now, and they feel very, very strong about that. And they have like their own little fan clubs and stuff. It's a lot more people than what we just taking at face value.
Okay,
let me ask the question.
That's fine, but at the same time, I'll say for myself, as an assistant, I do not like being called a secretary at all. That's not my role or anything else. Or even when you gave the example of housekeepers, now that we're referred to as maids. But times have changed, or times are changing.
Those are more
now. I know that there are people.
Those aren't racist, though.
Right. So, for example, how do you feel about Uncle Ben's rice?
Yes.
Don't see no problem with
it. Mining
company. See no problem with Uncle Ben. Don't see no problem with Aunt Jemima. A whole bunch of people got Uncle Ben's in their life. How is that? How is that degrading?
Delicious.
The only problem that people seem to have with Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima was the depiction of the Southern Sambo, the Southern.
Uncle Ben was never a Sambo. In fact, he had on the tux in those boxes.
Or the house. I'm trying to think of the best.
Right, it was a servitude. It was a servant role. You know what I mean? Both of them were in servant roles. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
they were both servant. Oh, she paused, and it figures it paused her just like that.
I know. History is history.
He got the froze face. Marvis, you got to repeat what you said because you got froze.
I was very passionate then. Now I got to get all passionate.
Yeah, come back.
Bring it back, sis. Bring it back.
Hey, hold on. What's your motivation? Your motivation was Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben.
Go.
What I was saying is, you can't. That was our history. We can't take away that. We cannot take away that our history was in a servitude point, and we were damn good at it, and people got good food for it.
But that's the same way where it's in the schools that they're now trying to rewrite history, that they don't want to talk about slavery and all of that. They don't want to talk about it because it's negative.
But hold on, Lori, to get back to what Marvis was going at, though, but we have to be careful with that because, right, there's some people that say that's why they still think we should be slaves because we were so good at it. They a lot of people are. I'm serious. I heard them say this. That they say I don't see. When they talk about the good and bad of slavery, they point to the fact that all slavery wasn't bad because
who are these people?
We took care. They say this. We took care of you.
Oh, we're gonna have fun today. Oh, we're gonna have fun.
I mean, that's what they would say. We took care of you people. So, but the problem that some folks have with Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima is just the depiction of African Americans in a way of that servitude like that, and it almost being monetized. It's like you're making money off of that image of something like that back in the day. It's like it's like having black friends that live in anywhere in America. There's still plantations. They have these neighborhoods and they call them something plantation and stuff like that. And you go there and there's a bunch of black folks in that neighborhood, and I'm like, that just seems weird to me. Why are y'all staying in a place and it's called plantation? And they do.
Because that's their home.
Yeah, but it's plantation. Everybody
people live in plantation Florida.
It's my dream house that I have been dreaming about all my life, and we work real hard, and it's the perfect house for me and my family. Just happened to be on Plantation Road, then I shouldn't purchase it? Come on now.
Right.
No. Plantation.
Would you live in a gated community and it was called Roxbury Plantation or something like that? Would you didn't think that'd be weird? You wouldn't feel weird about that? Maybe not. See, that's the field Negro in me. See, you probably was the house.
No, I was a house. I was a houseman. Yes, I was. These figures can't pick no cotton. Sorry.
But to take this back a little bit, that is the same way that a Native American would feel about the Washington Redskins.
Exactly. Bingo. Thank you, Mike.
Way to bring it back, Mike. Way to bring it back. Way to bring it back.
But that was my point. Yeah. So I'm glad you tied that together so eloquently. But that's exactly the point is that Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima depicted a certain aspect. And I guess the idea is that we, as a huge collective, don't necessarily want white folks looking at us like that from that depiction. Like that doesn't represent the Black experience and what everything's about. It's funny how they don't want to accept slavery being taught in schools, but they're okay with things that represent it and that they can monetize off of it. The people that were getting paid for Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima were not African-American people. So,
of course not.
You know, I got
never was.
That kind of goes into it too, is that folks are sitting there hijacking parts of your history and then depicting you in a certain way and then monetizing it. I think what happens is, do I like Aunt Jemima's syrup? You damn right. Do I like Uncle Ben's rice? Absolutely. And they know that, and they get you so connected to it in that way that it makes it easier for us to just accept the other things that go along with it.
If you're going on that point, then we start going to talking about music, you know, white people as white rappers and people who like sitting here and getting on the baggy clothes and everything else. I mean, white people in general have hijacked everything that is either.
That's what I'm saying. But if you starting with rap, you way late, because rock and roll and blues and country, to be honest with you, all that got stolen
by white people going to that. So, and they've always gotten an extra dollar on that and tried to keep it and not even give it to people of color.
Yeah. But, you know, I am kind of feeling Eminem and Jack Harlow, so I don't really know how to comment on that. You know, just saying. But I get
saying that it needs to be. They need to get their due. If it just needs to not just be like, oh, this is what I created myself, where you have to be able to pay homage.
Right. I just think that there's a difference between a cultural representation and something just being blatantly racist. You know, when you talk about the Chiefs and the Braves and calling something Warriors, that seems just more of a cultural thing where whether they're giving homage to the culture. I don't know. I don't know what their involvement. I don't know what the Chiefs and the Braves involvement is with either the local indigenous folks in the area or what. But when you say Redskins, that's probably a little bit more of a hot button. When you say Seminoles, that's not going to be anything like that too. If you call somebody the Cherokees or, you know, the Lumbees, those are actual names of tribes. Those aren't, you know, somebody going around like Mike said and calling people the New York niggers. Or they said the New York colored people. I don't think anybody would like that. I think people would. Now, what if they were called that back in the day and people's argument was, well, it's been that way for 50 years. Why are you going to go change it? I've been a colored or niggers fan for a long time. Now I got to go buy new gear. I got to take my jerseys. I got to go buy new jerseys that's got a better name on it. Nobody would have that argument. Most people would say, no, we got to get rid of that. At a time, was calling black folks niggers or colored okay? Yeah, it was. White people, listen to me closely. Don't do that shit now. Don't do it.
Well, nigga was never okay.
That won't work out well.
Well, it was okay for them. It was, well, okay. So they still say it at home when they listening to Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg or whatever music playing and that word come up and they don't like pause when it come out. But when they in public around black folks and that word come up and they be sitting there doing the song and that word about to come, they go. See, at home, they might just go ahead. They'll go ahead and say it. You know they do, right? But when they out in public, you know the difference. When you out in public, you don't do that because you're going to catch a two-piece. Everybody know that.
Yeah, we have this discussion all the time, and it turns into an argument. Like we use it regularly like water. And I'm not talking about, 50, 60-year-old white folks, but these 15-year-old white folks, it's a part of their lexicon. they use it and they use it in selected company. But yeah, they use it regularly. It's said commonly. There are no jackets on it anymore. It's just nigga this, nigga that. I mean, it's
Well, Brad, it kind of threw me back when I was in New York, and I could be around a bunch of Latinos.
Oh yeah, forget it.
And it's like that's just talking about part of the lexicon.
Yeah,
you go to Harlem, you just like, okay, hey, what's up, my nigga?
It's accepted. Yeah, it's accepted.
And you like,
yep.
So
but they would say that it's different.
It's different, right?
Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm not gonna justify why it's different. I'm just telling you, if you a white folk and you watching this show, because I know y'all watch, this is your PSA. Don't do it. I'm listen.
No
the hospitals are already overflowing with COVID. They're not gonna be able to see you for what you're gonna catch. Don't do it.
You can't say NIGGA, NIGGERS,
or you can't even get Nick out your mouth. Because if you get Nick out your mouth, you're gonna be on the floor when the rest of it come out. I'm just telling you.
It happens just that fast. I mean,
it will be that fast.
Kind of quick.
So
Nick, that's it.
So when we're talking about football teams, whether it's that Cleveland, the Cleveland Indians, they changed their name to the Guardians and caught a lot of backlash with that as well. And
years ago,
and the Guardian was a historical a thing in their city. Everybody knows about the bridge there with the Guardians overlooking and everything else. So they at least tried to tie it back to something relevant to the city, and it didn't matter. So many people were outraged. I've been an Indians fan for 40, 50 years. Okay, but were you an Indians fan or a Cleveland fan? Because it's still in Cleveland. Because here's my point. If you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, are you a Cleveland Browns fan?
Right.
Because didn't your team leave in the middle of the night? So if you're a Browns fan, are you the new Browns fan or are you a Ravens fan?
Are you even going to ask about
if you're a Tennessee Titans fan, are you an Oilers fan?
I gotta say, man,
your team left
if that's
Houston.
the case, you're gonna have to bring up the Rams. You got to bring up the Rams and how they.
But as I said from my St. Louis Rams,
hold on,
it's
player.
still the Rams.
It's still the Rams. Right. Baltimore left and they took off that jacket and tie. They said, we don't want nothing to do with you anymore. We gone. So they didn't keep the Browns then. They're not the Baltimore Browns.
And don't get me wrong.
Black people would have had a problem with the Baltimore Browns.
And don't get me wrong. When they did that, of course, there were a lot of bad feelings about that whole move and everything.
Yeah.
So I get the emotional attachment. I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek when I say, were you a Cleveland fan or were you an Indians fan? Well, for a lot of people, it's one and the same, and you can't really split the baby with that. But when a team has moved on, do you still root for the team, or was it about the mascot, or was it about the name, or was it about the team itself?
I had mentioned before that here in my little town here, the Ossining Indians, for years, they changed their name to the Ossining Pride a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And then they started making shirts that said Indians Forever. You know what I mean? Like with the full headdress and everything, like Indians Forever. We will not give in. We will not turn into the Pride. We're going to stay with what we grew up with. I think after a while, people just move on. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
It's kind of funny.
The Guardian.
Brian, you mentioned it from the very beginning. Fan came from the word fanatic. Fanatic. Okay? So you think about what a fanatic does and will do.
Has nothing to do with logic.
Correct.
Right. I agree. I think that's really the main thing is that.
God dang, I have to agree, bro.
Yeah. When
it don't have to make sense
because when you're a fanatic and things like that, when your team, two people can be sitting there watching the exact same game, and depending on who you root for is how you see the game. You know, that was a holding call. No, it wasn't. That was pass interference. No, it wasn't.
I didn't see it.
I ain't see nothing. I thought the ref called a real good game. Sure, you did. You won, you know. So I get that, and you know, it's funny because even in New York, Syracuse, a long time ago, changed their name. They used to be the Orangemen.
St. John's.
Right. Correct.
St. John's.
Was it St. John's?
St. John's was orange.
Oh, they were the Redmen.
No, they were the Redmen.
They were the Redmen. I'm sorry, yeah.
Redmen.
They were the
And then they
Redmen,
changed
yeah.
to Red Storm,
And they
right?
changed
Red
it.
Storm
Right.
now.
The
Yeah.
Red
And
Storm.
they haven't had a winning season since then.
Okay. So maybe that's what Brian. So maybe if you change the name, you kind of change the who would you that goes along with the title.
Well, I don't know because I would say actually Washington is playing a whole lot better now. All you had to do was find somebody's name that looked like Heineken.
Oh my gosh.
You drop the racism, you win a little more. I don't know.
You got Taylor Heineken as the quarterback, and now they seem to they winning. So who knows?
You win a little bit more when you drop the
You win a little bit
racism. That's
more.
all I'm saying.
And then and as far as the Atlanta Braves, you know, they've just been so ever since the mid-90s anyway. So I don't know what to tell you. Since
That
Bobby
used to be my
Johnson,
team. I don't even. I don't even how I ended up liking them, but that used to be my little go-to team.
probably proximity. You know, being here in Charlotte and growing up here, we didn't have a baseball. We didn't have a major league team, and we didn't have a major league football team. So,
Were you a Braves fan?
I was never a Braves fan. I rooted for the Braves because they were the local, quote unquote, local team, but I was always a Yankees fan.
He was always a Yankee fan. Always.
I'm sorry to hear that, Brian.
See, this ain't about them right now. I don't want to talk about that.
No, it's too raw. It's still too raw. I'm not talking about it. It's still too raw. I'm not gonna say anything. But during the 90s, everybody did that song that the Atlanta Braves were doing. That was
and even at Florida State. Remember when nobody could beat when Florida State was Alabama and Clemson back in the day? And Bobby Bowden, and they would just kill everybody, and everybody, everybody doing it, right? And it seemed to be more acceptable then. But here's the other thing that's happening too. When the Washington football team had that name, originally there were older folks out there that just they were like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
What's happening is culture and time is changing because a lot of the newer folks, the younger folks, are coming up and saying, oh, hell no. Like, I remember people older than me, if you called them colored, it wouldn't offend them at all because they're just used to hearing that.
But it offended you.
If you tried to call me colored, you're going to see some colors. A whole lot of them at one time. So
a flash of white.
Now we both African American, and their experiences though are different than mine, where they grew up in that climate. They saw segregation. They saw water fountains for coloreds. They saw restrooms for coloreds. They saw signs on buses that said coloreds over here and things like that. So they grew under that, and they were used to that. You know, that offensive? Not why is it offensive? I've heard it all my life. But you get somebody that then grows up in the 70s and the 80s, or the 80s rather, or the 90s or the 2000s, and you start trying to use those same words with them, that's not going to fly. It's just not going to fly like that.
I remember during the 80s when people, I think it was the 80s, late 80s, when people first started saying African American, there was some resentment to that. Like,
it was.
You know, I'm not African or whatever it was. I mean, you know, they didn't want to change. They didn't want to change from black, you know.
They want to be black, right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were saying that, like, because like even in my family, and I think Mike, you said something about it too a little earlier. I can't say for surety that I have like a great majority of anything in our bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 different Indians, and somehow we got a Caucasian in the family and everything. So I don't know. I'm still like trying to. So that's like my home project. I'm still trying to figure out where my roots went. You know, some are easier to trace than others. So that's why they was doing that, because I can't truly say, yeah, I'm truly African this tribe. I can't say that yet. I haven't gone back that far.
Well, if you take the Alabama sheriff's test, you're African, right? You pull over on the road at 3 a.m. and the sheriff pulls you over, they'll tell you what you are.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a true test.
That's the test. That's the test. Drive down the South. There were places in North Carolina, seriously, where there were billboards. If you know what a sundown town is,
sundown town, I'll let you know.
Okay, but a lot of the sundown towns, there were billboards that would say, "Nigga, don't get caught out past sundown." On billboards, letting you know it's all well and good while the sun is out, but once the sun go down, don't let your black ass be out here.
Or you better be over that county line,
or far over it. So you're right. A lot of that is embedded into a lot of people, so that when newer generations start to come up, they're not with that anymore. I remember a job took me down to Florence, South Carolina, and there was this lady, and she was calling every black person colored. And a lot of the people at that hotel were older people. I was probably in my early 20s. And when I heard that lady say that, I was about to go correct her. They pulled me back and they said, "Brian, we know you from the big city," because they think Charlotte is the big city. And they say, "But show me nothing by it. That's just where she come from," and stuff like that. Like they were making excuses for this white woman. And I was looking at them like, what the hell is wrong with you people? The war is over, you know? And I'm the one that's all gung-ho and militant about it, because it was offending me that she was just calling everybody colored. And to them, it was no big deal. But so I could kind of see that why maybe that didn't bother folks that are older Native Americans, and why maybe it would start to bother some of the younger ones coming up. Like, we don't want that to be our legacy. We don't want you parading a name like that around, then dressing up in war paint, feathers, and doing tomahawk chops and stuff like that. I just don't think that that's cool. So I can understand how it can change, even though you're the same race and everything. Just because of the time period that you came up in can influence how you feel about certain names. So that's why when people start talking about tradition, well, it's been that way for 40 years. Yeah, 40 years ago, maybe the Native Americans weren't as hostile about this name.
Right.
So just because it was okay then, a lot of things that were okay 30, 40, 50 years ago, we wouldn't stand for today.
And you said that 30, 40, 50 years ago, a lot of those movements and those sentiments changed when the black movement became stronger. You know what I mean? So late 50s, early 60s, those things started changing. People started questioning that. So the Native American movement, the Latino movement, even parts of the women's movement were coming on strong, because those black voices were loud as hell and saying, we need to change to this, we need to change to that. We're not coloreds, we're black. And look at Uncle Ben and take them off the box. So all of those voices started coming, and all of those movements came as a result of the black movement. Not entirely, but they definitely came up and felt their own wings as a result of the black movement.
Brad, I'm gonna give you the perfect example of this. When myself and Jermaine grew up, our favorite TV show was the Dukes of Hazzard. It was the
what was it?
Was what? Dukes of Hazzard?
Oh, okay.
Dukes of Hazzard? Yeah.
I like Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, I was too.
You know,
I like Dukes of Hazzard.
I was Bo, Jermaine was Luke, and we always wanted to find us a cousin Daisy boy.
Hold up.
We love the cousin Daisy boy.
Hold up, bro. I will pay you if you can reenact a couple of scenes right now.
I would pay you, bro.
I'm trying to get Brian a General Lee,
bro,
so he can just run over the hood and just be in the car.
When it would come on, we knew the theme song. Just a good old boy. We would sing.
Oh yeah, you sung that song.
Yeah, we knew word for word, man. We used to celebrate the General Lee. Matter of fact, we had a General Lee model car that we put together.
We did too.
Didn't know nothing didn't know nothing about what that flag meant.
Right.
And
But
I think
it was only until. But see, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And even though my dad knew, he allowed us to be kids at that point because he saw how much we liked the show. And he knew that we were liking the show in the context that it was just entertaining. It wasn't really about, you know, the South and the Civil War and the fact that the Confederacy were a bunch of traitors. I'm sorry, if white people, if y'all listening, but that's what happened. The Confederacy was a bunch of traitors against the United States. I know y'all want to call them patriots and celebrate their statue.
No, they're freaking traitors.
Could a show like that come on today and live?
Hell no.
Could a show like that come on today and live?
No,
buy him exchange, right?
No,
buy him in exchange.
Well, could Archie Bunker come on this day and age and live?
Hell no.
Could you have George Jefferson coming on calling the white man a hunky this day?
No, we're too damn sensitive. Listen,
they already sensitive enough against Blackish and Black AF, you know. So, no.
Our return phrase today, in case if you guys haven't gotten it, it's called hell no. Today's phrase is hell no.
So, you know, I felt some kind of way though once I learned about who General Lee was and what that flag was and what it represented and stuff like that. And that changed my whole mindset about the Confederacy. It was more education. At a certain point when we were kids, I guess he looked at it more as it being harmless. Now, he made that decision, but if I had two sons, I don't know if I would have been down for that. I probably would not have let them celebrate the Dukes of Hazzard quite the way I did, even though I still wanted to find me a cousin Daisy.
Every other show came out in syndication. Did that come out? Like every other show you could find now somewhere. Is Dukes of Hazzard on anywhere?
I've seen some reruns.
No. Have you? Okay.
Hell, you see reruns there.
Maybe the country
they
music
have
TV,
like that station.
TMC.
Every TV, I guess they have a station where they do the old time movies. Brian will make fun of me because sometimes I watch these shows and he's like,
"Oh hell,
man, listen."
Perry Mason, Matlock.
I am guilty of watching the 3 o'clock Barnaby Jones. I'm guilty. You know?
Oh my God!
Barnaby Jones, not Barnaby Jones.
Did you just say Barnaby Jones?
Oh man, come on.
That's a very bad thing.
They have a show called, I think it's called Mannix or something, somewhere back in like the 60s. That's on. That
was good.
Yes.
Hey, he pulled that one out. I mean, I'm wow.
Ain't nothing wrong with Barnaby Jones.
I might be a little older than you, CJ. I might be a little bit older.
Mary Tyler Moore and all of that.
Oh my! I think I saw old Bird. Lori was watching.
Lori, I thought Lori was watching the Golden Girls till I realized it was Maude.
Yes, it was Maude. They had a show that Maude was on.
Maude.
Maude.
You know about Maude? Maude was Maude before she was
She was like the Roseanne of the 70s, you know.
Yes, exactly.
So that's funny. That's funny. I was like, man, what's wrong? Why is it in black and white?
And that's why the show took off like it did. That's why the show took off like it did. Because it was like, hey, that's Maude.
So, but a lot of those shows at the time for them were groundbreaking. They were cutting edge. They were new and things like that. But to your point, you know, if you take the temperature of today, I don't think a lot of those shows could be on primetime television. They're going to be on those sets where people do have that nostalgia feeling and they'll watch. Oh, I remember this. I ain't seen this in years. Yeah. But you're not going to see this on Roku or Hulu. You're not going to sit there and see this on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock on the CW. That's not going to happen.
Or you know what you can do now if you're still into like DVDs. Walmart has it.
Yeah.
Walmart has the.
That's how I got my Rudy Ray Moore set. Those
they call them classics.
It is.
So It'll have like
if you ain't seen Dolomite and the Human Tornado, those are classics.
You know what?
No, it is not a classic.
If you ain't seen Dolomite and the Human Tornado and
that is a classic, ma'am. I will have to agree with my brother on that one. That is
Lori,
a classic.
Burn that suit. Light it on fire. Burn that suit.
Actually, speaking about the suit today, we actually had a good laugh about this.
Leave my brother's suit alone. Ain't nothing wrong with that suit.
For my conference for SHRM, it's going to be in Greensboro, and I was telling Brian that they're having a 70s night. So of course he wants to bring out the suit. So we actually, so I told him, I said, you can't wear the purple suit. You're going to get another color. So there was a white one, but he actually found like the platform shoes with the fish on Amazon.
Oh God!
Oh
God! Oh.
She ain't lying.
And you gonna get them too.
If you put live fish in them shoes,
it's in my cart, Marcus.
Listen, you do that.
It's in my cart.
Brian.
I don't know if y'all can see that.
I can't. I am not trying to see it.
It's in my cart.
Break out on Amazon. Real. No, sir. There has to be a limit. No, sir.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm getting a new cane and everything, baby. Oh man. Anyway, before we get out of here, I wanted to read a statement. And this is what it says. This is what it says. I don't believe that we should turn our society into an entitlement society. I think we should still be a compassionate, rewarding society. Who said that?
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
When were we a compassionate?
When were we ever compassionate?
When did
that happen?
You got a couple of votes. Mitch McConnell is a candidate.
Okay.
Who else? What? Who else would have said that?
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz could have said
that. Sounds very conservative. It sounds very conservative.
Yeah, it does.
Entitlement society.
So, the person that actually said this was Joe Manchin, a Democrat from West Virginia.
Yeah,
he's not a Democrat.
Well,
he's not a Democrat.
He was registered as a Democrat, damn it, and a Democrat actually fighting back this this bold, aggressive policy that Democrats are trying to pass through reconciliation. Last week, when they finally got Manchin to say how much he would go for as far as spending, because they originally wanted to spend $6 trillion. Then they cut it down to $3.5 trillion. And Manchin says, no, I don't want to go over $1.5 trillion because I don't want to turn our society into an entitlement society. I want us to be.
In other words, I want to be the only one feeling like I'm entitled. Shut the hell. Yeah, I can't say that. Shut the hell up. Anyway,
so I like what Michael said, because everybody that I know of has still been trying to figure out what does that mean, because that sounds like some old Republican talking points about entitlements, welfare queens, and things like that. Like, hey, let's not give them too much because then they'll get addicted to it and it'll make them a bunch of lazy bums. But isn't it kind of funny that when we sit there and we do all these tax cuts for rich folk, we don't sit there and worry about whether they're going to become a bunch of lazy bums?
Exactly.
We sit there and worried about, when we sit there and we bail out Wall Street and we bail out the car industry, we bail out the airline industry and stuff like that. We're not worried about whether they're going to be welfare queens or not.
Well, because we justify it. We justify it. It's like me, right? So when I go get my Big Mac, I say, well, it has lettuce and tomatoes on it. You know what I mean? We justify it. We justify it. So we say we're going to cut taxes for the rich. They're going to create jobs.
You've been practicing that for Mona.
When did you put lettuce and tomato on a Big Mac?
I don't know. You caught that, Lori. I'm sorry. No. You caught it.
No, you're trying to say the pickles. That's your vegetable. The pickle.
That's
the pickle.
It's green. It's green.
Pickles. It's green.
It's green.
But we say we cut taxes for the rich because they're going to create jobs. So we try to justify it to make it a little more palatable. And all the studies have shown that It's not that. They take that money and they keep it. They don't reinvest it.
I guess the part that I have the problem
in the
with
largest
is that
society.
when we do all of those things, yeah, it's great. It's a good thing. They're job creators and everything else. But when we give people that live paycheck to paycheck just a little extra help and stuff like that, they get demonized. They pay more taxes than Jeff Bezos. They pay more taxes than some Comcast.
You almost lost it, B.
All these
You
other
almost lost
people and everything else. But the ones that need the help the most are the ones that get vilified and demonized for it by calling them entitlement.
Right.
What do you think Social Security is?
Right.
What do you think Medicare and Medicaid is? Hell, what do you think having a police department is? That's a social program. The fire department, that's a social program. Your taxes pay for that service. Yep. My taxes should be able to pay for me not having to worry that when I go and have an operation or a surgery, I go bankrupt. It shouldn't have to be like that, but we talk about entitlements and stuff like that. And to hear it come from a so-called Democrat, it's like you're carrying the water of the Republican Party while you're a so-called Democrat.
And one of the poorest states in the country. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Brad, that was the other thing. This guy fights against the minimum wage when he would just rather these people go back into these mines and make him his dirty coal money. Right. And work for barely nothing.
But they're proud of that. They're proud of that. They're proud of all the death and everything else that came out of those. I mean, look, it is what it is, and I'm not trying to judge them, but they're proud of
tradition. They grew up in the mines. My daddy was a miner. My granddaddy was a miner. I'm gonna be a miner.
It's all about perspective. It's all about perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Kind of like that Forrest Gump tradition. Whenever Lieutenant Dan in his lineage. Y'all remember when he was saying,
"Oh yeah,
I was supposed to die in the
war. My grandfather died. You took that away from me. I was supposed to die like."
Right. That's that whole Lieutenant Dan lineage. They died, and I'm supposed to die. For what?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bubba tried to start a new tradition with a shrimp boat. All right, everybody. Final thoughts today. Y'all take it. Go around. Lori, final thoughts.
I have a lighter for you again for the other day. Just know that I love you. Mwah. Because I know you're still reeling on that, from Boston. Just saying.
Really? So anyway, bye, Lori.
Well, you better bring her back. Okay.
Mike, what you got? Please. Long as it ain't about the Yankees, please.
Final thoughts. So back in the days, I guess you were looking for a cousin Daisy.
Yeah.
Back where I came from, we were looking for a Thelma.
Ooh, yes, Lord. From Good Times?
From Good Times, yes.
Ooh, yeah. Bernadette still look good.
She does.
Looking good. Hallelujah. Well. Okay. All right. No say it. CJ, what you got?
Man, oh man. I'm just gonna keep it light. The phrase of the day, or the response phrase of the day. Hell no. Hell no. That shit ain't gonna fly. Not today.
Okay. All right. Miss Marvin.
Out of the mouth of a true fan, just pick a damn name. Just pick a damn name.
Pick a name.
I love that. I love it. Mr. Brad.
How are you on mute?
How'd you mute yourself?
Unmute you, baby. Unmute it.
Sorry, I needed to holler at Brianna right quick. I got one focus tonight, and that's the Rams going up to Seattle, winning on the road. That's it. That's all I'm concerned about. Sorry.
And I hate to keep jinxing you, Brad, but I already picked the Rams to win that game.
Okay.
But it's gonna be a shootout. I'm looking at
Appreciate
37.
I picked the Giants and the Jets this week. I picked the Carolina. I picked the Panthers to lose though. I did.
That's all right.
Panthers to lose.
We have our healing coming up against.
Wait. Who are the Giants playing this week?
Dallas.
What are you two playing each other? Wow.
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're gonna eat some Eagles. Yeah, we're gonna eat some Eagles. That's what we're gonna do.
I can actually see that. I can actually see.
I don't know.
I can too.
I don't know.
You get no pushback from that one. You get no pushback.
I don't know.
And wait till our new man Stephon Gilmore comes back in week 7. Woo!
But you know what? One thing.
Laurie's like, yeah.
Y'all got a running ass quarterback. I can say that. That mother sucker love to run.
Sam Darnold from the Jets.
Yeah,
he leads the league, right?
Who leads the league?
Every time he ran, I was like,
rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, he does.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see how you got better by taking 2 of our best people.
Yeah, because we knew what the hell to do with him.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's just like what I did with Lori. Other dudes had Lori, but it wasn't until she found me.
All right, I'm going now.
Yes.
There will be no show next week or the week after that. Until Brian gets out of the hospital, there will be no
because he's going to be in traction. Because he's going to be in traction, right?
Use that lighter,
Brian
Brian.
got the best because he got me.
I mean,
That's
Brian,
what
it was
is.
nice knowing
Brian
you. Like
got
when
the
I
best
did know
'cause
you.
he got me.
Anyway.
Brian got the best because he has me.
Yes, that is true. Thank you so much to my panel for joining us on this episode of Head to Head. Stay tuned next week when we will come back and chop it up again. And thank you everybody for watching us. We hope y'all have a great week. And yeah, go Rams. And we'll see y'all later on. Take it easy. Peace.
Easy.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma